If you're standing in an auto parts store right now, looking at two bottles of motor oil, and both of them say full synthetic on the front, you might assume they're basically the same oil. They're not. One bottle might cost twice as much as the other. One might be designed for a completely different application. One might carry an important manufacturer approval that the other doesn't. And if you're choosing your oil based mainly on those two words, full synthetic, you could be looking at the wrong thing entirely. After more than 20 years around engines, I've learned that the smartest oil purchase isn't necessarily the most expensive bottle on the shelf. And it isn't necessarily the bottle with the biggest words saying full synthetic either. There's something else you need to check before you spend your money, and once you understand it, you'll never look at a bottle of motor oil the same way again. Let's start with the biggest misunderstanding. Full synthetic sounds like a complete description of what's inside the bottle, but it isn't. Those words don't tell you the entire formulation, and they don't tell you whether that particular oil is the right choice for your engine. A finished motor oil is a carefully engineered combination of base oils and additives. Its performance depends on the entire formulation, not simply one phrase printed on the front label. You've got the base oil, the additive package, the viscosity, the performance standards, the manufacturer specifications and approvals, and the particular engine and conditions the oil is being designed to protect. So when somebody walks into a store and says, "I just want the best full synthetic," my next question is simple: best for what engine? Because that's where this gets interesting. Let's say you have two bottles sitting next to each other. Both say full synthetic. One costs $7 a quart, the other costs $14. Which one is better? Most people immediately assume the $14 bottle must be superior. But that's not necessarily true, and the cheaper bottle isn't automatically bad either. The price alone doesn't tell you what's inside. This is where we have to talk about something that creates a huge amount of confusion in the oil world: base oil groups. You've probably heard the terms Group IV, Group IV, and Group V. Group III base oils are highly refined and hydrocracked petroleum-derived base stocks with very strong performance characteristics. Group IV refers primarily to PAO polyalpha olefin synthetic base oils. Group V is a broad category covering other base oil chemistries that don't fit into Groups I through IV, including various specialty fluids. And here's the part that surprises a lot of people: seeing the words full synthetic on a bottle does not automatically prove that the oil is primarily PAO. In some markets, highly refined Group III base oils can legitimately be marketed as synthetic. So if you see full synthetic on the front of the bottle and immediately assume that means it's Group IV PAO, that's an assumption you shouldn't make. But there's another mistake I don't want you to make either. Don't hear that and conclude that every Group III synthetic oil is garbage. That's simply not true. Modern Group III base oils can be extremely capable, and finished motor oil performance depends on much more than the base oil group alone. That's why this conversation is more complicated and more useful than simply calling one group good and another group bad. Because here's what really matters: what does your engine actually require? Before you worry about whether an oil contains PAO, Group III, Group V, or some combination of different base stocks, you need to know what your engine manufacturer requires. Start with the owner's manual. Look at the required viscosity. Maybe your engine calls for 0W20, maybe it's 5W30, maybe it's 0W30, 5W40, or something else. Don't randomly change viscosity because somebody on the internet told you thicker oil is always better. It isn't. The correct viscosity is part of the engineering design of the engine. Then comes the performance specification. You'll see things such as API service categories and, depending on the application, ILSAC, ACEA, or manufacturer-specific requirements. These specifications exist for a reason. They aren't just decoration on the label. They indicate that the oil is designed to meet particular performance requirements. And then there's something many people completely overlook: OEM approvals. If a vehicle manufacturer requires a specific approval or specification, that's something you need to take seriously. You might see requirements associated with manufacturers such as GM, Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, BMW, Ford, Porsche, and others. And here's where I want you to think differently. You can buy the most expensive synthetic oil in the store. You can buy the oil with the fanciest bottle. You can buy an oil that uses an expensive base stock technology. But if it doesn't meet the specification your engine requires, you've missed the point. The best oil isn't the one with the biggest marketing claim. It's the oil that's properly formulated for your application and meets the requirements your engine was designed around. Now let's go one step deeper, because maybe you're specifically interested in PAO. Maybe you've heard that Group IV PAO is a premium synthetic base stock, and you're thinking, how do I know if the bottle I'm buying actually contains it? This is where you need to be careful. You generally cannot determine the complete base oil formulation simply by reading the words full synthetic on the front label. Manufacturers don't necessarily disclose every detail of their formulation on the bottle. If you're researching a particular oil, look for manufacturer technical information, product data sheets, published specifications, and other credible technical documentation. And understand something else: a safety data sheet is useful for certain information, but it normally isn't a complete recipe for the finished lubricant. So don't look at one document, see one ingredient category, and assume you've reverse engineered the entire oil. You haven't. The finished lubricant is a formulation. And that brings us to one of the biggest myths in synthetic oil discussions. Does PAO automatically mean better? No. And this is important: PAO has excellent properties that make it extremely useful in high-performance lubricant formulations. But the finished oil isn't just the base stock. It's the base oils, plus the additive system, plus viscosity modifiers, plus the formulation strategy, plus the performance requirements the manufacturer is targeting. Think about it this way: you can have excellent ingredients, but the final product still depends on how those ingredients are formulated together. That's why I don't want you walking away from this video thinking, Group IV good, Group III bad. That's not the lesson. The lesson is that you need to stop judging motor oil from one phrase on the front of the bottle. Now let me give you the checklist I want you to use the next time you're standing in that store. First, check the owner's manual. Know the viscosity and specifications your vehicle requires. Second, check the applicable API or ILSAC requirements. Don't simply look for the words full synthetic. Third, check manufacturer approvals or specifications when your engine requires them. If your vehicle specifically calls for an OEM approval, verify that the product actually meets it. Fourth, think about your application. Is the engine turbocharged, naturally aspirated, diesel, hybrid? Are you towing? Are you driving in extreme temperatures? Or putting the vehicle through severe service? Those factors can change what makes an oil appropriate. Fifth, if you're specifically shopping for a particular base oil technology, do your research. Don't assume the words full synthetic prove that you're buying PAO, and look for credible technical information from the manufacturer. And sixth, this one is huge: don't assume that the most expensive oil is automatically the best oil for your engine. You're not buying a trophy, you're buying a lubricant for a very specific machine. Now let's come back to those two bottles. Bottle number 1 says full synthetic and costs $7. Bottle number 2 says full synthetic and costs $14. Which one should you buy? The answer isn't 7 and the answer isn't 14. The answer starts with your engine. Which one has the correct viscosity? Which one meets the required performance specification? Which one carries the necessary approval? Which formulation is appropriate for your driving conditions? And if you're specifically paying extra for a particular base oil technology, can you actually verify what you're paying for? Those are much better questions. This is something I've seen over and over again. People become obsessed with the name on bottle while forgetting the machine they're putting it into. Your engine doesn't care how impressive the marketing sounds. It needs the lubricant that meets the engineering requirements it's designed around. So here's the one thing I want you to remember from this entire video. Stop treating the words full synthetic as if they are the complete specification of the oil. They're not. They're only one part of the story. The viscosity matters, the performance standards matter, the OEM requirements matter, the application matters, the formulation matters. And if you're specifically interested in the base oil, you need to understand what you're actually buying rather than making assumptions from the front label. After more than 20 years working around engines, that's the approach I would take with my own vehicle. I wouldn't start with the most expensive bottle. I wouldn't start with the biggest marketing claim. I'd start with the engine, check the manufacturer's requirements, compare the specifications, then look at the formulation and the value. That's how you make an informed oil decision. And now there's one question left. If two synthetic oils both meet your engine's requirements, which one is actually worth paying more for? That's where things get really interesting, because sometimes the premium oil is worth every extra dollar, and sometimes you're paying for a name when another formulation can do the job just as well. That's the next comparison we're going to break down. So before you buy your next bottle of synthetic oil, check the label again. You might discover that you've been looking at the wrong part all along.